Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Man, does it feel good to be here talking to you. Appreciate you joining us. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online. ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live via the streaming free always. If you miss portions of the program, go back, get caught up at your leisure. We'll post it both to the Apple Podcasts. Typically, you can find it there or our website. Eventually, it finds its way to Spotify as well and other outlets that carry podcasts. You can email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. Twitter's at jcameronshow. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you joining us as well. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Florida State Scrimmage this weekend, right off the bat. That's what we want to get to as we focus on Florida State football. First things first, unfortunately, got an injury, or a couple at least, to bring up. And, you know, that's going to happen once you start scrimmaging. So I'm not surprised, and it's not the news that you want to hear, but it's the news you expect to hear whenever they start going live. And for Florida State, right off the bat, you get a substantial injury, at least in terms of the magnitude to the young man. And I hate it for him because he's a grad transfer. Now, that's Jordan Wilson, the tight end that comes over from UCLA. And right off the bat, you know, obviously that's a position, when you think about it, that Florida State utilizes an awful lot, or at least this current coaching staff has in their previous stops. Mike Norvell has within his offense. So you would expect that that's a bit of a blow there because you'd like to have as many bodies as possible. But now, if what we're hearing is true, it's an Achilles. He's out for the year. He'll obviously have surgery and begin rehab. They'll apply to the NCAA for a medical waiver. He'll be able to come back for a 60-year eligibility. That seems likely. Should note, because I failed, as I often do at the outset, but my friends from Phone Hero, they're patient with me. All guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Me forgetting to do that is not an indicator of my lack of love for Phone Hero. No. I just get so excited about the football. And not excited to report the bad news there. Follow up on that. You're going to have bumps, bruises, dings, and the like, and some, you know, sort of pseudo, serious injuries. Chuba Purdy seems to have suffered one of those. They went live with their freshman quarterback. They said, get in there and buck up, soldier. It's on. You can get hit. Now, ideally, I think if I'm Chuba Purdy, outside of not yet fully comprehending the offense, which is problematic, not his fault, just got here, I am going to probably like my chances where things are live because I'm over 200 pounds and extremely mobile, apparently pretty quick from what they say, about 4.4 speed. So if that's true, I would think I have an opportunity when plays break down, and they're going to with this offensive line, folks, then I'm going to have an opportunity to maybe make some plays with my legs. But in doing so, he sustained an injury. He's going to miss a few weeks is what it looks like here. So you would think that that's the end of any run he was going to make at somehow wrestling away a starting quarterback position to start this season when Florida State faces Georgia Tech.
So we knew that the quarterbacks, at least the freshmen, were live coming out of the scrimmage when the coaches were available to the media. We didn't know the news about this particular quarterback just yet. You mad that the quarterbacks, that the freshmen were live? It's easy to Monday morning quarterback it, right? But, I mean, when you first heard that, did you go, well, that doesn't seem necessary?
Well, it's the way it used to be done, of course, for a long time. And I'm old, so that's the way it was done when we practiced. And we had, I say we, I'm talking back in high school. They didn't do that in the 1 year I was at ETSU, but we only had one quarterback. If he got hurt, we were looking at 10 losses. I mean, this guy was a be-all, end-all, and he was live every practice. I don't know. You could say, well, that's great, Jeff. That was the late 80s, you old ass. That's antiquated. I hear you. I'm not as upset about it as maybe some would be. I understand why he's doing it. I also think it speaks to perhaps just how big a lead James Blackman has in this quarterback race, my man. I really do. I think.
You think if Purdy was the one hope that they probably would have put a green jersey on?
I think so. I think if they thought either one of those guys had a significant chance to maybe roll out there and be a starter for them, that they would have been a little bit more careful. Or if you want to look at it the other way, conversely, if they thought James was just putrid and they hadn't seen anything that made them think that this guy should be the guy that leads them in to their first game as a starter, then they might have just put a green jersey on all of them and said, all right, well, I don't know who's going to start. We got to protect them all. Let's see. But I have a suspicion that they know that Rodemaker and Purdy aren't going to be ready to play in the opener, and therefore they were probably going to go with James. And, I think Jordan will get some run too. They'll utilize him in certain packages, those kinds of things. So I think that's what we're looking at here. I'm jumping the gun, though. We've got a ways, and Chuba will be back at practice. He's going to miss a couple weeks here. We'll see what happens. Rodemaker did have a couple nice throws in the scrimmage. He can throw that back shoulder fade. Everybody has seen that who went out to the practices before that the season shut down in spring.
Well, here's the key, and I don't know that we'll be good enough for this to be a reality, but Sanford's off the schedule. That's since late last week.
And they're working to try to schedule another game there.
If you get somebody of that caliber, as in one that you should beat, if you can get the freshmen, both of them healthy and ready to go by that time, assuming we play it on September 19th, then okay. Then, there is still development to be had for one Chuba Purdy.
Yeah, I'm less frustrated by that news than I am by the news of having the injury at tight end. This is where you're going to utilize guys. You want competition to really be impactful, and Cam McDonald's a guy who I'm glad had a good scrimmage, or at least I'm told had a good scrimmage, because you look at that body type, and Norvell has talked about you got to be smart to play tight end for him. You got to have the ability to read a defense, understand within the offense the complexities of what he's trying to do at that position, and depending on how they line up, what your role is. And Cam McDonald is smart, really smart, but he's also a physical guy. When you look at him, you think that guy should be a mismatch. But he hasn't always shown the intensity or physicality that you want. And so it's good that he had a good scrimmage. That's good to hear. But you'd like depth there. So Wyatt Rector now stepping in to a more prominent role at that position. I think he was going to anyhow. That is the sense I got from just those three practices that we were able to bear witness to. That was a kid who had come a long way from what you would expect to see a former quarterback transitioning to a position like that. You don't expect to see a guy look as fluid as he did there. He's obviously a big kid who puts in the time in the weight room, so I think he was going to have the requisite size. I just didn't know if he'd have that fluidity and the know-how at the position. But he looked good. Now, again, we'll see. That's from here. There's a long way to go. I'm glad that the defense dominated. Defenses should always be ahead of offenses at this point, especially when you consider that this defense is going to be the strength of the team, period. It just is. That you look at the interior defensive line, that you would match up against most offensive lines and feel very good about your advantage there. Florida State hasn't been in a position too often in the past where we would look at each segment and say, distinct advantage Florida State, right? Or at least not the last few years. But that's one where I think in almost every single game they play, you would say distinct advantage Florida State interior defensive line. We'll see about the edges. I think they've got some weapons there, and I'm excited to see that grow. We'll learn more as we go along. I think that Coach Fuller likes his defense. He likes the pieces that he has, right? And he's a guy that I like to listen to talk, and I think that maybe right off the bat here in the opening segment, let me just tease that and say we'll get to it because we got a lot of sound today, and we have a lot of subject matter as it pertains to Florida State football, some things outside of Florida State football as well. But anytime you're on the heels of a scrimmage, we haven't been on the air since that took place on Saturday night, then you want to catch up on a lot of things. It does look like we're moving inexorably towards a football season, towards playing Georgia Tech. And so as that momentum continues to build, you better hear of real progress being made because they missed spring football, and they still are attempting to install and create competition and figure out who should go where. I'm more confident when I hear them talk about the pieces they have on defense. We already know there are some known commodities there that you flat out think if put in the right position will succeed. Some of those guys have been misused. And then at the same time, you get excited about the likes of a Travis Jay, who every time anybody talks about him, they say, look out, he's a playmaker. They've moved him to safety. He looks like a guy that's going to be around the football a lot and make a lot of plays.
Yeah, free safety is what Coach Fuller confirmed to the media on Saturday night. And one thing that Coach Dillingham, the offensive coordinator, for those of you just joining us for football season, welcome. One thing he said about the quarterbacks, to me, I think exemplifies and it just shows exactly what everybody is going through. And what he was saying was, at Memphis, when Coach Dillingham and Norvell worked together and they built their offense and the way they were going to run it, there was an evolution process where year by year they added some things and they added wrinkles, and it evolved into this thing that they know as their offense.
Well, now they're throwing it all on them.
All of it at once on the quarterbacks. And I think that's how the whole team feels. You know, right now the race for a vaccine is Operation Warp Speed. Well, you could also have Operation Warp Speed right here at the practice facility and Doak Campbell. That's what they're trying to do because there's so much development that needs to be done because the guys aren't good enough. But then also you got to learn the offense and the defense and the schemes and the schematics as well. You're trying to do all of those things, and basically in their growth right now they're still in the spring. But you've got to find a way to accelerate that process to where there's something close to on the same page as the calendar says on September the 12th against Georgia Tech.
Well, and this is why you can't afford to waste time with what should have been non-issues. They have enough real issues to work with here on a daily basis, trying to get guys up to speed. And I bring that up for a purpose because we're going to talk about it next. Warren Thompson has apologized, as he should have, and we'll see now what happens. But it appears that Norvell has taken him back and said he's working with him, and they're going to try to move forward together. Listen, I'm not in that locker room, so it's not for me to say that that's going to be difficult to do. I don't know. If the players forgive him and they want to move forward and they think he can be part of the solution, then so be it. The players have spoken and the coaches have spoken. From the outside looking in, it was an egregious accusation, one that get coaches fired. It's the kind of thing that if said about me and wasn't true, that I'd have a hard time forgiving. But he might not be in a position to be as militant about that, meaning Coach Norvell, as let's say 3 years from now, something like that happens, and he's built his program and he's got complete buy-in, and they're not coming off of years of mistrust or building mistrust. I get it. There's two sides to this, but it's a fascinating development there, and I think it begins with players. You put that to a player vote is what you do. I mean, from all intents and purposes, it certainly looks like he was temporarily removed from the team, and that what we have here is them deciding to move forward, probably, just my guess, because Coach Norvell talked to the team about it. Because you saw to me, the retort from the real nucleus of leadership with this football team at the end of last week when they responded to the accusations.
Immediately walking off the practice field. That was a crazy thing, is the immediacy of it.
They were having none of it.
One of the questions is what Gene asked Jaden Lars Woodby. You just got off the practice field and to talk to us. And in that brief period of time to collect yourself, you wanted to go on social media, something you think twice about before posting. So that says a lot in and of itself. And that he wasn't alone says a lot more. So, yeah.
Yeah, the leader spoke and really kind of clarified that situation. At the end of the day, they're going to move forward. We'll see how long that lasts. Knock on wood that this will be the final such issue there involving that particular receiver. Now, I will also say this. The reason you can't be bogged down with those kinds of issues is because, from all accounts, the offense has a long, long way to go, and in particular the offensive line. And so it is that we have a conversation that remains the same, my friend, over and over and over again. When we come back, some audio that'll help illuminate that, amongst other talking points that derive from the scrimmage, but also Coach Norvell, a little frustrated with today's intensity or lack thereof as well. Chef Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. carries the day, and it's not a bad moon rising. Fall camp updates on 97.9 ESPN Radio, brought to you by Bud Light Seltzer, introducing the easy drinking hard seltzer that's got everybody talking, Bud Light Seltzer. By the way, Bud Light Seltzer comes in 4 different delicious flavors. Enjoy black cherry, lemon lime, strawberry, or mango. They even have some new flavors: pineapple, grapefruit, cranberry. 5% ABV and 100 calories. Bud Light Seltzer, unquestionably good. Got to be 21 years of age or older to drink them. Legally, anyhow. Please drink responsibly. A message from local Anheuser-Busch wholesaler, Tri-Eagle Sales.
I don't know that legally anyhow is in the copy there.
I'm just saying that's the truth. I'm not encouraging people that aren't legally of age to drink. I'm just saying that's the truth.
Stay in your dorm rooms. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. You
I
saw
know.
the pictures over the weekend?
Tuscaloosa, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Auburn's players were tweeting updates about Toomer's Corner.
Yep.
It was crowded.
Saw it at Athens, too. UGA. Some celebratory moments amongst the kids.
Start the 2-week clock. Let's see where we are.
So, I don't know. You want the good or the bad? We've got audio, a lot of audio today, and I'm excited about that because it's good to hear from the coaches. I like this coaching staff. I keep reiterating that. I understand we've got a lot of football to be played before everybody makes up their minds, and it's so-called lion season, as they say. You know, you're going to hear an awful lot about who's playing great, who's not, who's playing somewhere in the middle, and who's got a long way to go. And some of it's difficult to really gauge because you're going against your own team. And in this case, for example, if you're lauding the defense, and I think there's reason to do so, you're reminded that they're going against an offense that can't block anybody and hasn't blocked anybody in years. At the same time, defenses are always ahead of offenses. That's another reason to say, okay, well, good, the defense is playing well, they should. But in fairness, they have pieces. That defense, I think, legitimately has a chance to be a good defense. Maybe even very good on defense. I think the talent is there to make the argument that they have not just the speed and the size, but some depth in key areas to be a good defense, regardless of them going against this offense, which is going to be a major work in progress, primarily due to the offensive line's ineptitude. And then on the other side of things, I think that, just being competently coached means the offense has a chance not to be a dumpster fire, not to continually put the defense in a terrible position the way the last 2 years offense operated so frequently, buried in their own end and not able to flip field position, and making it easy for opposing offenses to eventually wear down our defense. And also they played with no real technique, discipline, or belief in what they were doing. So you had all these things that added up to a bad football team. Many of these things can be corrected just by instilling confidence and an understanding of how to play from a technique standpoint, also what your responsibilities are, also a coaching staff that calls plays, that understands its offense is limited. All of these things add up to opportunities to maybe not be so dire in your projection of what the Florida State football season is going to look like. Now, I say that to say this. Let's listen to the audio that I think illustrates that there's a long way to go for this offensive line.
We're going bad news first?
I'm going to go bad news first. I want to start with the bad news first.
Good news.
I'd really like to just get it out of the way. So let's go. Do you want to do the combination of Dillingham and Norvell on the offensive line? Because it all begins and ends with that group. Really, it does? All right.
I think Coach Atkins is doing a phenomenal job. I think those guys believe in him. We're just trying to find a combination of, five guys who can get the job done. And right now we're still sorting through what 5 guys those are. And hopefully we'll get to an 8 guys who we feel comfortable with going into week 1. And we just got to continue to shift and move and kind of, find what pieces fit where in the puzzle and keep getting better.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good things that they did. I mean, that's a position that, as much as any one of them, you're counting on 5 guys trying to operate as one. And there were some good things, and then there were some things that we definitely have to get corrected, quickly. And so, I'm gonna kind of reserve right to to see exactly how those guys work together, and we're still looking for the right combination. And that's going to be probably a couple more week process, and we're going to put guys in different places to try to cross train a little bit, and then try to find the best 5 guys. Ideally, we'd like to have 8 that we know we can play, but sometimes that works out, sometimes that doesn't. But definitely excited about some of our young guys and the growth that they've had, and we've got to clean up some of the mistakes that the glaring mistakes that the critical errors. That's what has to get fixed immediately, and like I said earlier, the rest of it we'll be able to build upon.
My man. Yeah, not what you were hoping for, huh? Less than desirable. Not ideal. Little scrimmage will bring that out of you in a hurry, right? When you can't block it up and you've got guys wreaking havoc, your quarterback, no time to throw. When you when you really don't have a 6th, 7th, or 8th offensive lineman that you feel good about in any way, shape, or form, and you're relying on 5 guys, none of whom you feel are dominant players, some that can be adequate, it's a daunting task. And I think that was revealed in those quotes. You hear them seeking to kind of honestly assess and answer the question they were asked without absolutely destroying the confidence of the players they're referring to. I do think they probably feel very good about Dante Lucas, and I think they feel okay about a Brady Scott or a Darius Washington. I'm sure they feel maybe Devontae Love-Taylor is going to be adequate.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, he could be adequate, right? It starts getting difficult. I suppose Bavion Johnson. They probably have the 5. They quite clearly don't have 8. And that's all well and good if everybody stays healthy for the entirety of the season. But when they were asked about that and they talked about trying to find the 8, they very quickly went to the younger names. In particular, I keep hearing Thomas Schrader. So it's not ideal, but that's what they have to overcome right now.
So, in movies or TV shows, it's either, it's a war setting or somebody gets bad news and they're disoriented and the sound on the film or the TV just goes, the ringing noise, and it drowns out everything. Do you think that was Coach Adkins walking off at the scrimmage field, maybe? Just
shell-shocked?
Just walking off. Yeah, well, I remember, Walter White, when he gets the news that, the MRI didn't come back clean. It's just ringing. He's like, huh? What? I think you're just walking through the tunnel going, ooh. Just looking around.
I think he knew it already. I mean, I think certainly his assessment, even in just the 3 days that they had for spring, was probably that of, ooh, okay, we got a ways to go here. And now you marry that with got some guys who had some technique issues and some confidence issues to deal with. Going to try to engender that, get them to – no, you try to engender that confidence. That comes through having proper technique, added strength, and understanding of what you're being asked to do. But in addition to that, all of that gets exacerbated pretty quickly when you go live for the first time in a scrimmage that traditionally the defense is going to be well ahead of the offense, and then secondarily present real problems physically. That group, I think, does present, and they'll present problems for everybody we face. I think it's the strength of the team. So, man, all of a sudden, you realize we've got a long way to go, and they're looking at the clock. It's the 17th. Now, I will also say that it made me laugh today to hear Coach Norvell saying that, thank God we've got another week before September the 12th because we've got a lot of work we need to do, and he means added to the preseason schedule. We've got a lot of work we need to do. This team needs to challenge itself. We're coming out to work. We have limited opportunities. I didn't think today was to the intensity of what's needed for us to play the caliber of football that I think we're capable of, but we've got to make the choice. We've got to respond as a team together. Coaches use these ploys, these methods, whether it's true or not, so I never know because we're not there. We can't see this. Ordinarily we would be, which is really the bitter disappointment for somebody like me. I would like to know, is this a motivational ploy or did they really look dead? My guess is a little of both because they did just scrimmage and got guys dinged up, and I'm sure some folks are swimming a little bit trying to figure it all out because, as we noted in the first segment, it was all heaped upon them pretty quickly. I'm sure some things went awry, and they're trying to figure out, in addition to trying to play fast, trying to be physical, and know what they're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, he's not wrong. They lost spring. Everything is sped up. You're trying to expedite the process and get there quicker. You got to be ready to play. It was interesting to listen to the coaches assess that and talk a little bit about the communication issues. But that's to be expected. Again, they did not get the benefit of a spring football practice. They would have had an opportunity to really install and get kids to be on the same page when it comes to the verbiage. All of that didn't get to happen.
Yeah. I think from what the walkthrough stuff that they could do, it was fine, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, because it's not now. It's not this.
Right. But then it's just there's aptitude and then there's development and technique. And that's the hard part. I would think, I don't know this for a fact, but it stands to reason, right? Common sense that most kids get better by hand-to-hand instruction, up-close physical instruction, rather than coach on a Zoom meeting. Sorry, coach, I'd like to ask a question, and then from there you get some sort of nebulous thing where Alex Atkins can't put your hands in the right spot and say, this is where you need to be. So, yeah, I mean, that part of it, the most important part of development is just, what are they on? Practice 8 or 9 together?
Yeah. They're going to be behind. That offense is going to be a work in progress. I'll say this, again, it looks like James Blackman is the young man that has the lead at the quarterback position, and it's not one that is – I think in fairness to James, I've been hard on him some, but a lot of that had to do with emotional breakdowns, things that suggested he was cracking emotionally and was not able to lead in the midst of dire circumstances and an awful lot of adversity. And when that begins to happen and you're not a physically dominant player, then, it may be time to take it on down the road or to move on. In fairness to him, he really got put in untenable situation after untenable situation. I understand that. So I try to seek balance when I'm commenting about him. I thought he was kind of broken going into the spring, and that maybe you had an opportunity to just go ahead and say, look, we're not playing for a championship this year. Doesn't matter who starts at quarterback for us this year. We're not winning the Atlantic. This was all pre-COVID. The thought being, maybe you get some of those young guys out there and you take your lumps so that the following year and the year after in particular, where you think maybe you begin to have some real wins and recruiting along the way and you have a chance to maybe compete for the Atlantic again, you'll have a guy with a lot of experience, the way they've done it in North Carolina with Howe. But now, obviously, that all got thrown for a loop, and I don't know that you can do that. Chubba Purdy got hurt. He's going to miss a few weeks. Certainly doesn't seem ideal for competing for a starting job. That ain't going to happen. I don't think Rodemaker's there yet. So I think you're probably, I'm jumping to conclusions here, perhaps way too soon. Probably an overreaction to the first scrimmage. But I think, you'll probably see James Blackman and Jordan Travis.
Well, somebody's got to go and get James Blackman. You got to run him down. If you are a freshman, then you've got to make leaps and bounds of improvements. And right now, the only freshman that could do that is the Rodemaker. And maybe from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, you see that improvement. But I don't know. It's also so early in the process for the coaching staff. They had one padded practice before COVID, and now they have their first padded scrimmage. They'd have gobs more information on these players and how they react to full physical contact by now if this were a normal year. So you don't know how to develop them all the way. And any coach will tell you that. Lawrence Dawsey said it way back in the day about James Winston before he made his debut. It's when the pads go on, you learn different things about players.
And the lights turn on, too. Yep.
They're only learning about what they need to develop.
I do think a lot of these guys, if you're looking for positives, not just with the defense, it was pointed out to me and has been for several weeks that, man, this team just looks different. And what I mean by that is not some nebulous concept of, oh, my gosh, wait till you see the way they play, the attitude and all that. No, physically they look different. Dudes are bigger. Coach Storms is earning his money, it appears, that perhaps not just a few, but many of our guys are eating at the Bama table. Well, you got to start somewhere. You got to get big enough and strong enough. You got to look like you belong amongst the elite group. And we haven't in the last several years. We've had outliers. We've had some guys that you could point to that say, hey, yeah, he looks like the guy at Georgia or he looks like the guy at Alabama. But we haven't had enough of those guys. And you recall that when things started to turn around and Jimbo was recruiting grown-ass men, quote-unquote, and we saw development in them pretty quickly, you began to be able to hold your own getting off the bus, just having the right look. This group is already a little bit ahead of the game from where you'd expect them to be in year one, and especially as disjointed as things have been. It appears buy-in in terms of eating right and lifting, all that stuff has kind of carried over. That's good to see. You got guys that look the part right now. Now learning how to play is going to be obviously of the utmost importance. Fall camp updates on the Jeff Cameron Show brought to you by Lisa's Paint and Body Shop. Choose a body shop working for you and looking out for you. Someone you can trust. Lisa's Paint and Body, located at 2820 Mahan Drive. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Secondary looks like it's going to be good. Be amazing to have kids playing in the right positions with proper technique, knowing what they're supposed to do. I think we're going to see that. I really do. And I think you got some players back there to choose from. Lots of people to rotate in. Here's Coach Woodson talking about Travis Jay and Jaden Lars Woodby.
The talent is not an issue. You know, he's probably one of the most gifted young men I've ever coached in my 16 years of coaching. The future is really bright with Travis. Again, the main thing for him is, like I'm telling everybody in the room, let's be great at the things that require no talent. You know, he got all the talent in the world. He's a kid that can play any position in the secondary, and he's sharp. You know, he understands the game. He's been doing a really good job in terms of special teams as well. So he'll definitely be an impact player for us. And, you know, he obviously the experience is going to help him. He'll be better in Game 9 than he will be in Game 1 because he didn't play last year. But I like where he's at. But, again, he still got a lot of fundamental things we got to clean up. So I'm impressed with Travis, and I'm excited to get the chance to coach him. Jaden is very consistent, very reliable, very dependable, and he's a really good player. You know, he fits the buck position that we're playing him at. You know, his strength is physicality, so we will be getting him involved a lot with the run game as well. And he's not a liability when in terms of coverage. So I'm excited to have Jaden. He's doing a really good job as far as being a leader and, you know, being a leader by his actions. You know, I'm continuing to challenge him to be more of a vocal leader as well. But I'm excited with where Jaden is at. And he definitely shows up every day to come to work. And arguably the most consistent player in the room for sure.
You think about the depth of talent there. You know, I'm told Nico Dotson had a good scrimmage, and I think that's important. We didn't know how good he was or was not, obviously, as a transfer. Led the country in interceptions last year or was tied with the lead. So he's a guy that comes in and could have an immediate impact on you. You assumed that you were going to hear good things about Travis Jay, but I continue to hear good things about Asante Samuel, Jaden Lars Woodby, Ricardo Green. You can go on to Brownlee's a kid that they talk about quite a bit as well. So, look, Akeem Dent, of course. Nasruddin hasn't even been playing. We don't know what his status is, but he was, I think, held out from the scrimmage. But they got a lot of weapons there.
Yeah, and when asked about it this weekend, Coach Fuller did say that Travis Jay is at free safety, Renardo Green is at free safety, and that Akeem Dent will be at corner. Welcome news,
yes,
I think, with Jay at safety
news.
and Akeem at corner.
So think about it. It's Akeem Dent. It's Miko Dotson. It's Asante Samuel Jr. Okay, all right, we're good there at corner, I think. And there's other names that they like. I mentioned Isaiah Bolden's another guy that they like. So I feel like they've got good players there that they can rotate in and out. I think that people are being put back in their rightful position, where they can better utilize their strength. That's pretty big. And I'll continue to point out that, you know, the more we hear from our defensive staff, the more impressed I get with what they have to offer. You know, I think those guys, we've sat down and had the good fortune of being able to talk to them. And, you know, now from afar, since camp has restarted, we're watching them talk with the press after practices, and we're utilizing a lot of those comments on the show here. But before the season and then as spring got started, we had our opportunities. And I, from the very beginning, seemed to sense that this was a group highly competent, highly motivated, very, very insightful, and anxious to get started. Most new coaching staffs are, but I think the collective coaching acumen on that side of the ball adds up to a talented staff, and I think they'll get something out of a group that is certainly, when you consider the depth of talent on both sides of the ball, the one that is the plus on this football team.
Yeah, I think when we heard Willie's staff the first time at the Car Museum, you thought, wow, these guys all are good recruiters. You could just hear how they would pitch it in a living room, and it sounds really good. And if we want a little bit to start, you would have gotten yeses from a lot of players. And so maybe we would have there would have been a blanket over the fact that we couldn't develop, or there were some inefficiencies in communication and hierarchy, right? Might have had the players to play above all of those inefficiencies. This group seems like a bunch of instructors. And can they instruct and get so much out of these players, some of which are absolute blue chippers for real, not like they're blue chippers because Florida State offered them. If you can get the results out of them, then maybe if there's a bit of a gap in the recruiting ability, you can cover that with the results on the field. Another player who's provided depth too, Jerrion Jones. He's wearing number 7 in the secondary. Just kind of a weird number to see for a defensive back.
There are weird
corner.
numbers everywhere. I was looking at running back and sitting there thinking, what? Who's number 0? Realizing it's Corbin, but it's just weird.
But he had one of the clips from last week's practices, and obviously the transfers were made available to the media last week. Drawing praise is Jones as well. So there does seem to be a 2-deep in the defensive backcourt, which is nice to have a 2-deep. Used to be we had a 2-deep everywhere, but this time around you take it where you can get it.
We're going to hear from Coach Fuller in the next hour and get his thoughts on the defense and what he likes, what he doesn't like. I love how straightforward he is, his assessment of players, those that lead, the physical talent as opposed to just the raw ability, and also those that can kind of combine the two and how are quickly coming on. I think he likes a lot of guys on this team. You'll hear his comments about Joshua Kendo. It's so hard with Kendo. It's nobody's fault. I mean, on the one hand, I want to believe that a guy that looks like that, right, and that is impressive to talk to is going to go out and play that way. But he got hurt right when he was coming on as a player, and then, he's going against this offensive line. So whenever you hear it, you're immediately, prone to say, well, maybe he's good, but, or maybe he's taking another big step forward like they're claiming. Maybe he's going to be a star like we had hoped he would be when he was recruited. But perhaps the other reason he's dominating is against this sorry offensive line. Lots of people look good.
Well, what's the cliche about getting better? Iron sharpens iron, right? Well, there's iron maybe on one side, maybe. We're not sure if Kendo is iron yet. But we know that if he was maybe in many other camps across this country, he'd be getting sharper by the people he's working against. And it's possible that there could be a rapid development for Darius Washington or somebody else at tackle. That is distinctly possible.
I'm holding out hope, buddy.
At this point in everybody's development, they're either too raw or not talented enough to get it done.
There are other things happening as we speak, including the playoffs and the NBA underway, and what I think is the most evenly matched series between the Jazz and the Nuggets. That game, you want to know? You don't want to know? 102-101, 3:50 to play. That speaks to what I figured would happen in that series. That is a toss-up.
If the updates are limited to the round ball on the court,
you're
good.
Okay with that? You don't want
vulcanized rubber on the ice sheet? No.
You don't want that?
Please, no.
I could give you an update on Tampa Bay.
No, it's not update time for that ass. Please.
I'm just saying I could, but you don't want that update.
Probably towards the end of the first period right now, if not in
first period has ended, Tom.
Okay.
That's all I'll tell you. That's the update. First period has
I'm trying not to parse your tone.
No,
anything.
the first period is
Okay.
over. That's all I'm saying. You're trying to read too much
if
into it.
I had to guess, it's no score. That's my guess.
I was just going to tell you that the first period is over. That's all. And just to see what your reaction would be. And it was exactly as I thought it would be. You trying to read between the lines of me telling you the period was over.
Not trying to, but I have to at that point. And just the poker guess is 0-0, but we'll see when I watch it a little bit later.
There are also camps underway in the National Football League. That's scheduled to start. I mean, here we go. Already the injuries are, they're culminating, and we'll have to get you updated on that as well. Not ideal, but we've already got a couple of significant injuries. And then for some reason, everybody obsesses on letting you know that Des Bryant's going to work out somewhere. And I has the man played football in 5 years? What are we doing? Why is this always a thing?
Now, that was the New Orleans experiment last year that lasted a day, right?
A day, and then now he's going to go practice with the Ravens, which will last an hour, and we'll be done there. Yeah,
could be interesting if he gets 6 games out of him.
I guess. I don't see it. But, yeah, this is all that's going on. So when you get home tonight, when you're leaving work, man, you've got the NHL playoffs, which I watched late into the night last night, more Major League Baseball, which I've watched every weekend and certainly a couple nights during the week, and the NBA playoffs. So you are loaded for bear every night when you go home if you want sports. And then, of course, updates from colleges and the NFL. I'm a little geeked. I know we're pensive. We don't want to totally, buy in for fear that our heart will be torn in half.
Yeah, I could tell you that this weekend, I know you're talking about leading up to college football, but this weekend I found myself saying, nah, I don't need to watch that game. And I slapped myself across the face the moment I said
better
that
watch
internally.
that damn game.
Hey, I don't care that Jim Herman is leading the PGA Tour event this weekend, man.
And he won it.
Right. Like, the fact that there's no names on the leaderboard, you know what? Embrace it and watch it. I know that the Mets pitching staff is god-awful, but you know what? Embrace it and watch it because it could be gone tomorrow.
It was good to see him, Herman, win, and Billy Ho missed the putt there on 18. What a heartbreaking missed putt for the former Gator.
He missed
Tragic
three
to
in
see
the final
him not
4
win
holes.
that tournament.
3 from inside 10 feet.
That's a bit of a choke job. Tragic.
If you're looking for somebody to defend Billy, I'm not that guy.
No, I just enjoyed it that it happened. I would also note that the rough there at the Wyndham, whoo.
Yep.
Poor. A couple. Siwoo Kim had a couple that I thought, well, good Lord, so you're going to break your wrists.
The one thing about Billy, though.
His pants are uncomfortably tight.
No, that's not the
Stop
first thing I
doing that. Stop doing that.
The first place.
Billy Ho's an apt nickname with those ridiculous-ass pants. Stop doing that, man. Get it together.
Old Robbie on the diamond here.
It's
Dick
wrong.
Hauser.
It's criminally wrong.
No, it's he sure as heck will have a Florida Gator bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And wear pants 2 sizes too small as a man. It's uncomfortable. Get your ass together, man. Stop that. I mean, it's obscene. When they're like, well, here comes Horschel. I'm like, oh, turn the channel. This is disgusting. It's problematic. I think the tour should step in.
Well, and he's won the FedEx Cup before, too, so you might be seeing a lot of them the next couple of weeks.
By the way, fall camp updates on the Jeff Cameron Show brought to you by Lane's Medical Shop. With locations in Colquitt and Blakely, Lane's Medical Shop offers all your medical supply needs. We'll even deliver to you with emergency service available. Lane's Medical Shop, 229-308-5811. Hour number 2 forthcoming. to Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. By the way, if you missed portions of the show, we'll post all 3 hours to Apple Podcast upon the conclusion of the show. So go back, get caught up. Want to add some fodder? Make an observation? You can. JCS at 979 ESPNradio.com. On Twitter, it's at Jay Cameron Show. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you are well. Exciting game. Western first round, game 1. If this is an indicator of how good things are going to be, then get excited. 115, 114, 115 all. They're headed to overtime.
How about that? So Christine Lisi was doing the Sports Center at the top, and I waited until about 30 seconds in because I know hockey would be at the tail end if it was at all.
Yeah.
And I turned that puppy off in the studio. I know that the 15-second billboard is going to run before Sports Center's done, so I have still successfully made it to 4:03 without knowing anything.
There you go. There you go. I could give you an update, but I won't. They have started.
Something good happened.
No, I was just going to tell you they've started period 2. I'm going to be consistent with my updates, Tom. Period 1 was over. I told you about it. They've started period 2. I just glanced up to see the clock say 1944 is what it said.
Okay.
Or, yeah, that's what it said, 1944. I'm looking at it. That's all I'm telling you.
Good year.
I'm just letting you know, 1944. We got a load of baseball tonight, games across the board. One of them you'll hear right here on this network on ESPN Radio. We've got the Braves for you. The Braves are 13-10, so Braves fans, where you at? Kind of a little mixed bag, right? Your pitching has kind of gone south. A couple guys not rising to the occasion and being told to have a good day.
Old guillotine Snitker.
Yeah, and Fultonevich has been sent down the road and all that. So there's plenty of guys that aren't getting it done as you expected, but then there have been still others step up. Of course, offensively, they're fun to watch. So there you go. They got Washington tonight. We have the game for you. Here, who do your Mets play tonight? I didn't even look.
The Fish.
Oh, Miami, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Pirates are back at it again. Yay.
Oh, you're playing baseball finally?
Yeah, 4-14 now that we can. We're allowed to play again. We'll be taking on Cleveland, who no doubt will hammer us the same way that everybody else has who's played the Pirates. It's just been one beat down after the next. There was a scrimmage over the weekend. We talked a lot about it last hour. Florida State underway, and you cross your fingers that you continue to learn about what this group is. You hope that you can minimize injury, although that was really the top story of the day, brought to you by Barano Heating and Air Conditioning. Our friends at Barano, great relationship, years on end now, both with the station and with me personally, my family. Really happy that we utilize the services of Barano Heating and Air Conditioning. And if you need air conditioning, heating, you wouldn't need heating now, services, make sure you give Barano Heating and Air Conditioning a try. The top story, I guess you would say at this point, Tom, in my opinion, if you're just talking about what shined, what didn't, what you like, what you don't like, is right off the bat, you get saddened to hear that you lose the transfer from UCLA, Wilson, out for the season now. A kid that I don't know what he was as a player. I know that that's a position they're going to rely on heavily, and with him out now, really, you're just talking about what Cam McDonald at that position. And listen, Wyatt Rector's going to get to play there, but he's kind of I wouldn't say an experiment, but he's never played the position.
Yeah.
So
probably
you
an
lose
H-back, and you've got limited role for him that you're going to try and make sure he understands.
Yeah, so you lose Jordan Wilson. I will say the freshman Carter Boatwright, we'll see. They've got some other bodies. I don't want to make it sound like they don't.
But Wilson came in here because of the experience, because he and McDonald could play with some experience on their resume, and that would be a steadier hand in the meeting room. But now you're just pressed.
Coach Norvell seemed a little frustrated today with the effort. I don't know if that is a message being sent. I don't know if that's the byproduct of the fact that they just got done scrimmaging. You got some guys that are dinged, and they lacked some intensity there. But Coach Norvell pointing out time is of the essence. Don't really have the luxury of ignoring this ramped-up time frame. Now, they were granted the extra week, of course, but by ramped up, I mean they did not have spring, and we've had to allude to that a lot because I think it's what's led to some of the frustrations we hear from the coaches in terms of the communications and the consistency or lack thereof. And that's going to happen when you don't have a spring. So, I'm not surprised to hear that. At the same time, there was plenty to highlight that was positive. I want to begin here with a soundbite. Coach Fuller is a pretty straight shooter. I think we've learned that pretty quickly. I like the intensity in his voice. I like the way that he talks about his team. I like the way that he assesses his players, and that there's a lot of work to be done, but a lot of positive signs as well. Here's Coach Fuller talking about this defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, our defensive line, we're trying to get them to come off the football and play with the great pad level and technique. Coach Hagens and Coach JP do a really good job. And it's, our guys like to play the style of defense that we're playing now up front. But it's taxing from an effort standpoint. And, the finite technique that needs to be used on play 1, 2, and 3 is still the technique that be used on reps 7, 8, 9. And I think that's the part of growth that we're getting. We have some depth, but sometimes you can't always rotate that depth in based on the series. So just the continuing efforts up front. I think we've got the right pieces. I think we've got the right pieces in the right places now. Now it's just trying to make sure we have the roles in place and we're doing the right things when the right guys are on the field. Because there are some guys that are a little bit different than other guys. So we got to make sure that, yes, we have a certain way we want to play, but we also want to play to our playmakers. And we got to deal with that up front. I think our linebacker crew, we've got some veterans and then we've got some really talented young players. And you saw that tonight, and I think we've done a good job of trying to execute. I mean, they're right in the heart of the defense, and they're involved in pass fits, run fits, blitz fits, situational football, live checks, everything involved with our linebacker room. So we put a lot on their plate. Chris has done a really good job, Chris Marv, with that group. I think we were physical at the point of attack tonight in the box. I think on the perimeter we need to improve for sure, just our perimeter fits. In the secondary, we rolled a lot of guys, at corner. I think we've got set who's playing safety positions and who's playing corner right now. Now it's just about again, kind of like the D-line and getting the technique right. Marcus Woodson's done a really good job with the technique of our corners, the techniques of our safeties. We had a few open field missed tackles that will absolutely kill you on defense. And, all big plays fall in the secondary. I mean, you name it. D-lineman comes out of the gap, happens. Linebacker comes out of the gap, it happens. Don't want it to. You don't want to misfit, but it's about our secondary getting the ball on the ground to reduce those big plays, and that didn't happen enough tonight, so definitely some work to do moving forward.
Translation, once we get guys playing with the proper technique and at the proper positions, we have a chance to succeed because they're athletically gifted, and we haven't seen the best of them because the previous staff didn't know what they were doing.
Also sounds like mental and physical conditioning need to get to another level, which can be expected if you're not having spring practice and not, training traditionally, because he's talking about reps 1, 2, and 3 being good, 7, 8, and 9 not so good.
Yeah, and I can expect that missed tackles in the open field are the byproduct of this being the first scrimmage. All of that gets better the more you rep it, so I'm not concerned. I am often buoyed when I hear them talk about linebacker play and talk about what we've seen. Coach Norvell did, Coach Fuller has before, but they've got some players now between Amari Gaynor, Steven Dix Jr., Kevon Glenn, Jaleel McCray, Leonard Warner, Emmett Rice. They've got some players now at linebacker. I think that you're going to see do some really, really good things.
They like Lundy as well. It sounds
right.
like the outside
they
backers.
like DJ Lundy a lot. You're right.
It sounds like the outside backers, slot defenders, need to get a little bit better at their fits, though. And that's that. Well,
early.
If you're looking at the middle, the way he described it, he said, we've got some veterans and we've got some really talented young players.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. They like the potential of the younger guys, which we knew.
I've just been so excited about the potential of having a linebacking core that's not the bane of our existence. I mean, we've had such a hard time on the offensive line that almost any and all conversation begins and ends with their ineptitude, that a lot of other things get glossed over. Areas where they were incredibly weak at a place where you ought not be weak. I mean, the access to talent, this region of the country, you ought to have a solid linebacking core at Florida State if you're not beset by injury. I get all of that. And we just haven't. And so, damn it, man, that is really frustrating. You want to play an intimidating brand of football. You want to dominate. You want to be able to step in and shut down the run and make somebody one-dimensional and kind of dictate terms. You can't do it when you've just got ass-sorry linebackers, and we have had that for some time now. Very, very frustrating. So, the next step is to see if we can develop a pass rush. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I do trust this staff. I'm going to say it time and again. I like this defensive staff a lot.
Well, I would think that Kendo would be the ball of clay you'd like to mold, right? If you could, that's the body type and that's the potential skill set that you would really want to swing and miss with if you have to swing and miss.
Yeah, I don't know if he has enough fast twitch. Maybe he does. Let's see how explosive he can be. Here's Coach Fuller talking about Joshua Kendo.
Joshua Kendo's a pro. The way he goes about his business, his maturity, his intelligence, his skill set, the way he goes about his business. I'm really excited about him and the way he's going about his business. Just his maturity with the things he's doing on and off the field. He's one of the guys, when I said I want to come to Florida State, those are the type of people that I want to put myself in alignment with. I think Josh, as good of a football player he is, he's that good of a person right now in my mind. Just watching him work, watching him care for his teammates, watching the standards that he has for himself. Joshua Kendo is a Seminole, no question about it.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. That's great to hear. We speak a lot about what's lacking with this team. That's what you do when teams lose a lot of football games, and Florida State has over the last 3 years. You talk about where's the leadership and where's the trust and where's the bonding and all of that. You're going to hear that a lot. That's what losing programs produce, a lot of questions. But when you hear about a Joshua Kendo who's taken on the leadership role and others like Jaden Lars-Woodby, Marvin Wilson, so many on that side of the ball that we're excited about, that lead by example, that have stepped up in big moments, that gives me hope. That really does. And I think that there are probably maybe 5 guys on this team that really stand out in that regard. The vast majority of them appear to be on defense, but we'll wait for Coach Norvell. Somebody will emerge on the offense. I don't know who that's going to be, though.
What's interesting to me is you're right. You're talking about those 3 players in particular. They've all taken turns at different points of this offseason / camp where they're going to lead. But then you add into the mix Jerrion Jones and Miko Dotson.
Yes.
Fresh faces. And in a way, Travis Jay is a fresh face, too.
Yeah, getting moved to free safety, yeah.
Right. And obviously for last year, the, clearinghouse issue where he couldn't participate as consistently as they
and
wanted.
they loved him. Everybody did physically thought, man, if this kid could play.
But consider if you are a member of that defense who is not one of the aforementioned, and you have all of these elements around you, more leadership in front of you, beside you, new players around you if you're one of these linebackers or you are an Asante Samuel, right?
Better coaches teaching you proper technique.
There's a whole new world around you.
Yeah. Well, one you can excel in. That's the biggest thing. I think there's real room for growth, and they can establish something on this defense. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. You take some of the pressure off your offense, which is going to be a slow starter to begin with. It's the nature of the beast. You're installing an entirely new offense. You don't have what you need up front with the offensive line, and you've had limited time to get it done. So you're going to have to rely heavily on this defense to carry the day if you're going to win football games. And I think against the less powerful offenses that you face, the likes of Georgia Tech and others, you can win games falling back on that defense, winning field position battles, flipping field position, doing all those things that then put the pressure on the opposing offenses, and really ultimately anything you can do to alleviate pressure from your offensive line and your quarterback is a real good thing. I mean, it'll take some time for them to come around.
Yeah, this is something we lost consistently for the last 5 years. You could even argue to a degree in 2014 we did as well. Hidden yards, the hidden yard battle.
Oh, man.
It's going to be absolutely critical this year. And if we are as detail-oriented as these coaches sound when they talk to us, then we're going to start winning the hidden yards battle every once in a while. And we'll win a game and you say, how the heck did we do that?
23-16, all right, or something along those lines.
Because of special teams, because we're pinning people back, because we're not taking that stupid 15-yard penalty on 3rd and 6, all that stuff.
Football practice is kicking off. Our friends at warchant.com want you to jump aboard for all their wall-to-wall coverage. Warchant presents a limited-time offer. Sign up for a new annual subscription to warchant.com and get 25% off the price of an annual subscription. $25 e-card to Garnet and Gold, and 3 free bonus months added to your subscription. $80 value. Just use promo code Norvell2020. I think today's the last day, guys. You want to use promo code Norvell2020. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. That's a very interesting opening week schedule from the SEC. Doing favors, ensuring their better teams are going to win football games and that their low-level teams do not.
Is it like Vandy, Alabama?
It's Alabama at Mizzou.
Okay.
Georgia at Arkansas.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Florida at Ole Miss. Mississippi State traveling to LSU. Kentucky to Auburn.
Oh, wow.
It's really rather obvious what they did here.
Kentucky-Auburn could be a good game. Maybe.
I mean, that just cracks me up. You've got the number 3 ranked team in the country against an unranked team, the number 4 ranked team in the country against an unranked team, the number 5 ranked team in the country against an unranked team, 8th ranked team in the country against an unranked team, 11th ranked team in the country against an unranked team, 13th ranked team in the country against an unranked team, 26th others receiving votes, top 25 fringe team in the SEC against an unranked team. Oh, okay. They're just like passing out W's, man. That's nice. And some of these poor bastards are first-year coaches. They're like, okay, well, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm Mike Leach. I just took over at Mississippi State. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, we got to take on LSU on the road. Way to get it started. Way to get it started.
Yeah, draw a picture of how you feel, Mike.
The other 3 first-year SEC coaches, Arkansas' Sam Pittman, Mizzou's Eli Drinkwitz, and Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin, debuting against teams all ranked in the top 10. Welcome to the conference, boys. That's how we play ball. We make it abundantly obvious. Arkansas facing number 4 Georgia. That guy's like, well, it's going to be a long year either way. I mean, we weren't going to be any good.
At least we don't have to travel.
We'll just take on these ass-kickings early on. League-only schedule, as you well know, 10 games. And now we have, where they're located and all that good stuff. The entire, by the way, the 2 additional opponents were cross-divisional foes and selected according to a statement from SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey to create a schedule that is competitive as possible and builds on the existing 8 conference games that had already been scheduled for 2020. So it was a formula.
As competitive as possible, maybe not for week 1, though.
Yeah, as competitive as possible in that, we want our best teams to win games and give as many teams as possible the chance to be there at the end. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Anyhow, they've done that. That's big news in college football today. The other interesting story in college football today is whether or not it will be an impact, and that is that North Carolina, University of, going online only classes. They sought to do it another way, didn't work out. They're saying going online only. Now, if you're somebody who a long time ago no longer worried about the optics of students not being on campus, and you only concerned yourself with the idea that whatever works so that football can be played, whatever makes that most possible, I want to happen, then you see the news, North Carolina attempting to have classes in person on campus, having that fail one week in, deciding to go to online courses only as, frankly, really good news. If you're pro football and making that happen, well, there you go. They're not going to have to worry about dealing with the student body at UNC.
Assuming the damage wasn't already done in the first week and you don't have a rash of issues within the 85-man scholarship roster.
That is correct, assuming that the damage has not already been done. I think your greatest concern all along has been, what is this going to look like once the student body comes back? It's a rational and fair assessment of a situation that seems to suggest that that was going to be a disaster. The photos from around the country as colleges re-engaged seem to suggest that that was going to be a problem, and now you have a school in the ACC that's eliminated said problem. We'll see.
We'll see if it holds with what the conference wants to do in terms of football, though, and if that doesn't change the conversation a little bit.
Well, how dedicated are you to playing a season?
Yeah.
Because this was, again, we talked a lot about optics and the way things appear and what you can stomach and what you can't stomach, and if you can get past all of that, then All right.
There are those who are cynical out there that believe that the on-campus thing is a farce and it is a petri dish idea that the universities will go along with until the checks clear for the semester, and then they'll say, we'll just transition to online only.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to believe that's true.
Oh, but it seems.
But I wonder, is it no refunds? If I am a student, undergrad student, I'm working 4 jobs to make this thing happen,
if
right?
you're out of state.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm working and I'm paying my own way, no scholarship money, and you're telling me that whatever money I've committed to you for the semester is going to hold at full price now that you've made this change.
Full price. Not taking any money off of that, buddy.
That would be criminal. At least I would allege it would be. I'd try and get my money back.
Yeah. Well, that's a different discussion and one you're going to hear a lot of.
Well, since it gets to the finer finances of these institutions, it
Yeah,
blends
they're
in
all
with college
desperate.
football and
They're
college sports all the more.
All screwed. And I look at what UNC's doing today, and I think that's ideal for football. It's not ideal for the student body, but it is ideal for football.
The campus bubble idea was something pitched months ago, yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, and, it's one of those things that would allow you to just kind of roll your eyes and say, well, the sham of amateurism is very well out in the open, and we got it. No, let's go. We're playing football. Okay, everybody understands. Got it.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
My eyes have rolled so much in that regard that they look like a beat-up range ball, you know?
Yeah. But there are people who are just now going to arrive at that is what I'm saying. They're just now going to be like, well, what in the world?
Don't be afraid to leave people behind. If they haven't caught up already, then that's their problem.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit along the lines of my Thin the Herd conversation on the regular. By the way, overtime final today. The playoffs are underway, and, man, did we get a good one right off the bat. It's a shame I couldn't watch it. Kind of had it on the background. Nuggets 135, Jazz 125. What figures to be an incredible series anyhow. Just trying to assess that matchup. You called it a toss-up. I called it a toss-up. That game was tied at 115 at the end of regulation, 135, 125 in overtime. Nuggets knock off the Jazz.
So NBA overtime, because it doesn't happen all that often in the playoffs, is it a full quarter? You get a full 12 minutes, or is it 5? Because if it's 5 and there's
that's
20,
a lot of scoring.
That's a lot of points. Yeah, 20 points.
Yeah, I'll have to. I didn't look while we were doing the show, so I have to look. But by the way, it's a fun stat line. When I look at the box score from that game, you're like, well, goodness gracious. Donovan Mitchell lighting it up. You had Jamal Murray score 36 points. This was a fun game. Offenses have lit up the bubble. That's what you've seen so far from the NBA. I mean, you've seen scores that remind me of the 80s, where nobody bothered to guard. You're seeing finals, 135, 120, 127, 114, pretty, on the regular.
So how much NBA have you watched?
I have done more watching of baseball, more watching of the NHL playoffs. I've been waiting on the NBA to get to their playoffs, which is beginning today. So I'm about to fully engage. I've saw the Lakers go through the motions, not look good. I've seen
Dame, must-see TV.
He's been unbelievable. And yeah, when I'm flipping around, obviously I watched Terrence Mann the other night. I tweeted about that.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And Sam Cassell, good for you, man. I mean, it was so cool to watch. I watched that. I was actually just sitting there on my couch, stunned, watching Terrence Mann kind of do what he did here at Florida State. Just a stat stuffer, but to do it in an NBA game and the way that he did, and effort still counts for something, man. He's got a lot of it, and coupled with athleticism and what for, he can have nights like that. Perhaps a little bit more consistently, but good for him. Good for him. I'll now re-engage in full now that we're dealing with the playoffs. Love the playoffs, and I'm not taking sports for granted right now. You just can't do it. I don't know when knock on wood, something bad's going to happen that puts a pause or a stop to it. So I'm embracing anything that's remotely competitive or matters.
Yeah, I was thankful for this today. The NHL released their testing information for the past week. 4,000-plus tests, 0 positives once again in their 2 bubbles in Toronto and Edmonton. So here's hoping that Disney keeps yielding those results, especially in the coming weeks as families and friends arrive in the Disney bubble, that they continue to have the zeros. The NBA's just made the cutting room floor. I've got 2 TVs, and I still don't have enough time to watch it. But like you, I think by round 2 of the playoffs in the bracket, I'll be ready.
Yeah, there's certain matchups that I'll watch anyhow too that I just find intriguing. That I'm, that the one today, I know, perhaps around here that won't get a ton of love. But I mean, right off the bat, Jazz Nuggets, we thought, well, that's a fun matchup. Those are secretly kind of fun teams to watch, anyhow. And we saw that some last year. So I'll watch. If matchups dictate, we got two compelling stars going head to head.
Well, Lillard against LeBron and Davis, they're probably not going to win, but you could see how much. It's almost like when LeBron the one year against Golden State, you're like, well, how much can he do?
Yeah, what can he do?
And I get that Dame's not the only player on that team, but is he going to drop 40 or 50 tonight? Is the game?
Well, it's not just that he's scoring like that, and you could say, well, in volume, but he's shooting a high percentage, so it's not just.
He'll throw down from the logo. He doesn't care.
He just did over the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw. He crossed the timeline, 2 steps. We'll get you some of that action. It's beautiful.
Had to have it. The margin was so thin.
Yeah,
then they barely win the play-in game.
I know. It's fun to watch. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I assure you that Braves Minute's coming. It'll be it's on the way.
That would have been last week's Braves Minute, so we'll make sure we get the correct
We're
one from
fixing the
Fonville,
Braves
Lewis, Messer,
Minute.
McConaughey.
Yes, we got to do the right thing. We're fixing the Braves Minute. By the way, that decision from North Carolina, Tom, to go all online, remote, came after the university in 1 week went from 2.8% positive rates to 13.6%.
Yeah. Now, this is where my ignorance worked against me. It usually does that in general. But I thought that Florida State students would be arriving on campus around the beginning of September, just around Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, wow, you're really going to go with the 12th. Like, that doesn't seem to jive, with the COVID clock. Because if everybody's going to arrive at the beginning of September, you're trying to kick off the 12th. I don't see how you can do that. But I suppose since most campuses are actually welcoming students back on campus right now, that by the time we get to Labor Day, we're going to know the size and scope of all the problems that are going to be coming.
Assessment, size, and scope of problems, and what happens next to remove us from a state of limbo is on everybody's mind pretty consistently. The NCAA announcing today that they would like to be prepared if the college basketball season can't start as planned in November. They've already considered possible alternatives if that's the case. In a statement released today, NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball Dan Gavitt said there are contingency plans in place if the season cannot begin on November the 10th. The NCAA plans to meet to discuss those alternatives and will provide an update in mid-September if the season is going to be delayed. Quote, in the coming weeks, the NCAA Division I Men's and Women's Basketball Oversight Committee will take the lead with me in a collaborative process of finalizing any recommendations for consideration by the NCAA Division I Council for the start of the college basketball season. By mid-September, we will provide direction about whether the season and practices can start on time or a short-term delay, is necessitated by the ongoing pandemic. Gavitt added that the safety of the NCAA student-athletes is the most important thing, said it may require flexibility to pull off the 2020 season, and mentioned it could be an imperfect season. Nobody likes to hear that. You don't even like to broach that subject. I do think that, moving forward, obviously, they're going to have contingency plans at all times. I mean, it's a new reality in the dawn of a new age, but it's good to get out in front of things, but at the same time, it makes you have to confront the stark reality that perhaps college basketball in a season that we're very much looking forward to is also going to be affected.
Yeah, and the question is, are all conferences in earnest going to look at the bubble idea? Because there were reports last week that the Big Ten, among other conferences, were looking into the idea of creating a bubble-like atmosphere for that sport to be able to pull it off, along with hybrid/online learning.
To your point, in today's AP release, amongst others, both the NBA and NHL opted for bubble plans, which seem to be working. The NCAA is looking at alternatives such as bubble plans. MLB altered divisions and schedules due to the coronavirus and have updated rules and recommendations on the fly. By the way, we'll have an update on that, in particular what happened in Cleveland, where players have threatened to opt out because their own teammates couldn't get it together and act responsibly. The NFL hasn't gotten underway, obviously, but the league canceled the preseason to give players more time to get acclimated to camp. We've updated you on camp so far, but nothing to do with coronavirus, other than to note that some players, of course, have opted out. All of those are examples that the NCAA will look at, knowing that things are unlikely to go smoothly. They have to figure out contingency plans. We did talk about that even before we got into today's news, which was that getting these leagues, the professional leagues, underway would certainly act as examples. The things that work, don't work, problems, working out the kinks of the plans and having contingencies in play. Moving forward with college athletics, you could derive your strategy based on what you've seen from these professional leagues. Now, again, many of those professional leagues have greater resources, certainly, to be able to do this. And it may very well be that the NCAA can't. But you could at least see in practice what works and what doesn't work. And we do know, I feel like this is a daily topic, unfortunately, not one that I want to have, but a stark reality that we have to not ignore, and that is that bubble talk is pretty much the norm these days.
Right, and it's not about March Madness and the brackets. It's about, trying to make something exist and make it work. For me, I was just doing some talking with family and friends over the weekend about sports and unrealistically soon timelines of when normal will be back. But where we got to in terms of, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could ... March Madness, being in the building like we once were, or, Super Regional College World Series baseball like we were. Maybe, New Year's Day is far too soon to expect something like that. But, come on, we get into the middle of the spring. Do you think it's possible that we could be enjoying these sports like we did just before COVID? Or is that just, a pipe dream?
Well, I have really tried to stay in the moment, understanding that we have to look ahead and figure out our plans.
Just our different teams and
yeah.
seasons and when we typically visit with each other.
Oh, and
everything's
everything's already turned on its head. I mean, the Hall of Fame game, like you talked about, we would have already been experiencing that, right?
Yeah, you would have had week one of the preseason.
Yeah,
already.
we would have already had week one of the preseason. So now everything's on a tilted timeline. We've already been kind of trained to significantly alter. Forever I was so set in my ways regarding seasons and when things start and when they end. And I'm not talking about the weather. I'm talking about football, basketball, baseball, the NHL, you name it. And now everything, I mean, even our day-to-day life, our schedules have been greatly changed. And so I at this point, I'm just hoping for, obviously, advancements in medical care and science. I mean, obviously, we want to find a vaccine that would allow all of this to be a moot point. But that said, I'm now open to whatever works. And I listen to and read about those plans pretty much nightly.
Well, my hope would be this, too, that if you have enough advanced time, which we certainly do, that you could push back March Madness into May if you need to next year, because you've got all the time, and the NBA calendar is going to be much different for the next full season that they have coming.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lag effect, I would think, of about 2 years. Let's just say that, in about a year and a half from the start date. So by late next year, COVID is in a place where we can start going to games and there aren't restrictions on the amount of people.
Sure.
You're still going to have a lag effect for the NBA, the NHL.
Because of their schedule being pushed back the way that it has.
Yeah,
when
they're going to have
start
to
again,
normalize it. So I would think if there are key dates for colleges that they used to have to abide by, they'd be able to push them back by a couple of weeks. I mean, maybe 6 weeks, 2 months.
Which is also why I think, again, we go back into how reasonable is it to try to play a spring football season. I just don't think that's going to happen. If this shuts down now, and I don't want to be dour, but if this shuts down now, they're not playing in the spring.
Unless they were willing to push back from the following fall and just change it and try and roll it back
they would have
slowly.
to do that as to not ask college football players to play 24, 25 games in the same calendar year.
They're asking the general enrollment to show up in the tens of thousands, and they just did in North Carolina. Now they're saying, whoop, go, you know what, online only.
They gave it a run. Now they're going online only. You got to hope.
Player safety, student safety, that's not at the forefront of the priority. It would be nice.
Let's just go ahead and get out in front of this. FSU students, take it on to the house. Take it on to the house, wherever that house may be. New Hampshire, South Florida, wherever. Sorry. Online only. We've got to play football. Just say it. Just get out in front of it. Say it. We really need to collect the checks from the television revenue for playing these football games, guys. It's not safe for you. We all know that. You go on home. We're going to let these kids play football in a pseudo bubble. It's going to be awesome.
Don't worry. You know what? Pass, fail. Just give us the full tuition.
You're
pass,
all
fail.
set.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. You're going to get that piece of paper. Don't you worry.
C's get degrees, right? Or is it D's?
No, C's.
C's, all right.
Yeah.
See, I only had a couple of them.
Yeah.
But now it's P's get degrees because you pass. That's right.
By the way, Canadian football, if that's your cup of tea. And I bring it up because if you're a sporting guy or gal, there's money to be made right there. I frequently would scout that league the way you would anywhere else.
To preseason NFL football last year, this would be your money time right now, buddy.
Man, I would have been raking it in.
Yeah.
Harbaugh cares deeply.
Once you started betting preseason football, I knew that there was no stone, no sport unturned.
Listen, I was giving you, this was an ATM that I was providing for people. I told you. Harbaugh wins preseason games, 16 of them in a row, in fact. That guy doesn't care at all. He cares about, he doesn't care about the optics. He cares about winning. And you can collect on that. The CFL, It's a football league just north of us. You can monitor that. You can watch that. You can have a clue about who's good, who's not. There are those that will do the research for you. You can opt in, as they say these days.
So are they playing?
No, they canceled the season.
Oh, man.
Canadian Football League cancels their 2020 season after being denied a $30 million government loan. For the first time since 1919, the Grey Cup, of course, that's the trophy given to the CFL champion, is not going to be awarded. Now, that's sad, and it's very, very, obviously relevant to our time, but I cared about the angles, man. We had some angles here that we were going to be welcoming back.
They needed 30 million Canadian. Couldn't we all scrounge that up? Can't we just start a telethon and in like 10 minutes we'll be good to go?
They were going for an interest-free loan from the Canadian government in order to financially hold a season. That loan was denied, according to TSN today, and their commissioner said our governors decided today it is in the best long-term interest of the CFL to concentrate on the future, not this season. We are absolutely committed to playing football in 2021. The future of our league is bright when we return in 2021.
Can we have a loan there, pal? Can it be, interest-free? Excuse me? Yeah. Interest-free, man. No.
They were going to divide the loan with $20 million going towards paying players, $8 million used for a hub in Winnipeg, and the other $2 million going towards a contingency fund. That's how that was going to get done.
I'll bet the government was listening until they said interest-free.
Man, the hub. I like the hub. The world's all going to a hub. Everything. It's off to a hub.
That seems really reasonable.
It's worked out well for the NHL.
Canadian, I mean, that seems really reasonable for the value of, I'm sure Canadian football matters to those cities, right?
You know, what's funny is that we pay so little attention to Canadian football that in reality that season was to kick off on June the 5th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we've been waiting. I've been waiting primarily for the sporting guy or gal. We've all been waiting to find out if any such season was going to occur. I mean, listen, you can watch anything you want to watch online. You can gauge anything. I'm watching Australian rules football occasionally. I do love that the audience, our listening audience, JCS listeners, know that I have an affinity for Australian rules football as well as perhaps being a sporting guy or gal, and they'll give me updates on who's who and what's what and what I ought to be paying attention to.
Would they be so kind as to link the source of the programming? Like, where can it be watched in real time? That is a public service, please. Because I would like to watch it. So where can I get it?
Well, okay. Well,
do I have to pay $10 a month to do it, or something ridiculous like that?
Well, let me tell you this. That's a small price to pay for a quality product, sir. But what I would tell you is that it's usually when I can't sleep and I let people know that I'm not sleeping that they're on. It's on live right now, and I'll flip it on at 4:00 in the morning. There we go. We got a little something here. You can catch it live in the wee hours.
But on FS2 or something like that?
No, it was on ESPN the other night.
What?
Yeah, you can watch it. But I need to tune in, find out where I can go back and watch the games that have already been played that, try to keep track of.
That would be a sport that if I'm going to pick a team, tell me the best one. I'll be a front runner. I'd like an organization that's well run, please. If I'm going to invest in Australian rules football, who's cool?
Well, my brother is an expert on this. He lived in Australia for 3 years, and he traveled and went to many of the stadiums. He said it's just a raucously good time. It's not unlike what we have here with tailgating and all that. He said the fans are awesome. You get a little bit of everything, including like the tailgating and the pre-gaming, but also the singing, like European soccer. So you get you get a little bit of everything, and so yeah, it is fabulous. It's a sport that I wanted to introduce the league. I wanted to start the American Australian rules, the
American Australian rules football.
Yeah, I did. I wanted that. I used to talk about it on the air way back when, and there was a league starting. They were going to try to do that. I don't know what happened to it. All right, well, we need to bring it back home because what we need to do is update you on the scrimmage that took place over the weekend. We've got plenty more coming in that regard for Florida State football. The latest, that's all coming up next hour. Stay with us. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today, and I surely do appreciate you tuning to it. And I mean that. Your time is valuable. Thank you for spending some of it with us. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming, free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, go get back. Go get back. Go back.
Get back to where you once belonged.
Yeah, JoJo. That said, you can find the show all 3 hours when you're going to get back
to where you once belonged.
You'll find it on Apple Podcasts. You'll find it somewhere where they have podcasts. Go and listen to it there and rate it 5 stars. I demand you to do that. Of course, you don't have to, but that'd be cool if you did. Hello, YouTubers. You can email the show if you want as well, jcs@97.espnradio.com. And on Twitter, it's @JCameronShow. Yeah. So, everybody wants to know, the scrimmage. What are you hearing? What do you think? Well, this played out and kind of get you caught up to speed if you're just jumping in your car. We've talked about this off and on throughout the day, various elements of what we learned from a scrimmage that we can't watch, and also what we learn about the work to be done, certainly injuries that play out, all that stuff. And you can assess some, and we all reach out to our sources, people who were there, who did see it, people who are willing to kind of talk off the record about some of the good, some of the bad, and everything in between. But one thing I always know about these first scrimmages, and this is going to be especially true when you didn't have a spring to work on it, new coaching staff and all of that, they're going to be messy. They're going to be inconsistent, and the defense is going to lead the way. Now, that's true no matter what. That was true when Jimbo came here. That ended up being true when Willie was here. And who knows, that could have been the most wildly outside the lines of the norm scrimmage we'd ever seen.
Well, we scored 11 touchdowns in the one scrimmage.
Yeah, well, that wasn't good. But, of course, that was also set up that way, right? You were trying to instill some confidence. Anyhow, the point would be that you can't glean too much. Now, there's only so many things you're going to learn from scrimmage number one. And one of those things is going to be you got to tidy up a lot of areas of your football team. And so I wasn't surprised to hear the coaches address that. In fact, you'll hear some audio here in a second. And I do want to remind you that we've got so many outstanding sponsors who've jumped on board with us for these fall camp updates. And I want to make sure that we've doffed our cap to everybody properly. But remember this. WarChamp is presenting a limited time. WarChamp's presenting a limited time offer. Sign up for a new annual subscription. I know I butchered that, but you'll get the gist. To warchant.com and get 25% off the price of an annual subscription, a $25 e-card to Garnet and Gold, and 3 free bonus months added to your subscription. That's an $80 value. Just use the promo code Norvell2020. Norvell 2020 is the promo code. This goes through.
I saw it today. It looks like they pushed it.
Today's the last day for that? Okay, so wanted to make sure I got that out there to you. There you go. I think that's right. So thanks to WarChant for helping sponsor our practice updates. And you've heard throughout the show today so many others that have done the same. But we talk about things that we have to catch up on. We have to, first of all, look at injuries. And right off the bat, you lose a tight end, and that's a big deal because Norvell, by his own account, uses the tight end. We look at the numbers at Memphis, and you recognize I was really excited about that aspect of his offense, is how often the tight ends are involved. I think there's a chance to take advantage of mismatches there. And you lose Jordan Wilson. He's the kid that came over from UCLA. He's now out for the year. I'm seeing that's an Achilles rupture. That's not good. Obviously, you wish him well. That's not been, I don't think, clarified, but that's
lower leg is what I read earlier. In the afternoon,
interwebs tend to have these things leak out. But
that makes sense though. It's either ankle or what you just said. So right,
that's unfortunate. We wish him well. Obviously, you don't want to see anybody get hurt like that. But he'll apply for a 6 year of eligibility, and they do expect him to have him back next season. Those are usually granted. That's a no-brainer. That's not hard for the NCAA to get right. Like, kid got hurt in a scrimmage before the season began. Achilles, that's the end of that. So he'll rehab and hope to come back. And then, I think from there you find out that it's interesting they chose with the freshman quarterbacks to go live and get him in there and get him tested, and that would be an advantage for one Chubba Purdy. He's faster and more athletic than the Rodemaker. as you call him, the Rodemaker.
The Rodemaker.
Rodemaker is a pocket passer who throws that back shoulder fade very, very well. I saw that in the 3 practices I did witness, but he's not going to beat you with his legs. So that would have been an advantage for a kid that runs in the neighborhood of a 4.4 and is a bigger, thicker physical presence in the form of Chubba Purdy. But he got hurt. So that advantage is gone. He's going to miss a few weeks, according to Coach Norvell. So that is, I don't know if it's disconcerting, it's disappointing. By all accounts, what appears to be happening right now with that quarterback group is not the thing that the fan base wants to hear, and that's that James Blackman is in the lead, and it's pretty significant that he's winning by quite a bit, at least for now. I do like hearing from people that it appears that he's cleaned up some of the stuff in his mechanics that were off before, and that there is evidence that he's worked hard on the footwork. It's not perfect. I don't know that he's ever going to be that guy from a technical standpoint, but that he's improved. Again, it's one scrimmage. We'll see. But I think that it looks like he's in the lead. Let's just say that. Fine. Listen, they want to win football games. I'm going to have to trust that the guys that are out there practicing every day that are watching this, obviously the coaches are going to pick the right guy. I mean, they're trying to win games, and they're trying to win games right now. So if it happens to be James Blackman, it happens to be James Blackman. I'm not sure it matters all that much, because I'm about to play some clips for you that might suggest that, meet the old boss, same as the new boss, or meet the new boss, same as the old boss, as they say. It's let's listen to these quotes, okay? This is we're going to go with Norvell, or do you want to go?
It's Dillingham followed by Norvell.
So Dillingham followed by Norvell, and then let's group these two together because we're going to have fun with this. This'll tell you where we're at here. Okay, fire away.
I think Coach Atkins is doing a phenomenal job. I think those guys believe in him. We're just trying to find a combination of, a combination of 5 guys who can get the job done. And right now we're still sorting through what 5 guys those are. And hopefully we'll get to an 8 guys who we feel comfortable with going into week 1. And we just got to continue to shift and move and kind of, find what pieces fit where in the puzzle and keep getting better.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good things that they did. I mean, that's a position that, as much as any one of them, you're counting on 5 guys trying to operate as one. And there were some good things, and then there were some things that we definitely have to get corrected, quickly. And so, I'm gonna kind of reserve right to see exactly how those guys work together, and we're still looking for the right combination. And that's going to be probably a couple more week process, and we're going to put guys in different places to try to cross train a little bit, and then try to find the best 5 guys. Ideally, we'd like to have 8 that we know we can play, but sometimes that works out, sometimes that doesn't. But definitely excited about some of our young guys and the growth that they've had, and we've got to clean up some of the mistakes that the glaring mistakes that the critical errors. That's what has to get fixed immediately, and like I said earlier, the rest of it we'll be able to build upon.
So if I were to be the Jeff Cameron Show PR representative here for a moment, the more that Coach Norvell talks in that interview, the more I want him to stop talking. If you had the offensive lineman's best interest in mind, like if you were trying to keep them from doubting, you'd want him to stop talking. Because the more he talked, the more I went, oh, okay, there it is. Now, that's not his job. I do appreciate that he's answering that question, attempting to be diplomatic. But I think if we're going to translate offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham's comments and head coach Mike Norvell's comments into just plain English, we don't have 5 offensive linemen that are worth a damn, let alone 8. That's the translation. We don't have 5. We'd love to have 8. We don't even have 5. That's what that translation was. If you want to mix in a little bit here, Tom, I'll address the nuance. He also noted they're pretty happy with some of the young guys. So a few of the veteran offensive linemen that they thought could hold it down, which would allow them to expand to maybe get to 8 by inserting some of the younger, more talented, raw talent, freshmen or redshirt freshmen, that may not be the case. They may not have time to wait. They may just have to play some of those young guys to help fill out the 5 because they're not going to get to 8 guys. They don't have them. They're not magically going to appear. They're hoping to muster 4 of the 5 to be below average. That's what I'm hearing. Right. Yeah. That was funny. That's the question he wished had not been asked. And then the more that he talked, the more he was kind of working it out. Just sort of that's a tough position. We got to, I saw a couple of, there were some things here and there. Certainly I like, we're hoping to find 8. But maybe there's a couple of young guys. Right. I mean, that's going to take a while. That may take another, it could be a while. Some of the young guys, maybe. We're hoping possibly. Hello, darkness, I mean, I saw a thing or two. Certainly got to clean. We're going to have to. Maybe some of those young guys. Maybe some of those guys. But, that'll be a work in progress, and that's something we got to clean up. And, there's a possibility that Jesus Christ will grant us with 5 players that can line up and protect our poor quarterback. It's been shattered ever since he arrived. Frankly, fellas, I'm appalled by what I've seen from our offensive line since I got here. I can't sugarcoat it any longer. I don't know that we're going to be able to win with this group. Perhaps the season gets canceled and we can bring in some more offensive linemen and inject them with steroids and get better. Next. No, he didn't say all of that. But I think that desperation is very clear. That's fun. That's, oof.
Well, when he said, my favorite parts of that clip are, and I don't mean favorite because it's laugh to keep you from crying.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally you want to get to 8. Sometimes that's absolutely possible, and sometimes
other times it's not.
He just moved on, power through. And then at the very end, it was almost like when Tiger piles on with his trash talk. He's like, just got to clean up those glaring mistakes, those critical mistakes. It's critical. But we'll work on that.
We're going to have to clean up. And by clean up, I mean block somebody at some point. We're going to have to physically get in front of the defenders at some point. Got to clean that up to where we can put our hands on somebody and at least slow them down. It's just, that's the best. Dillingham, go ahead and play it again. Play these 2 again. This is just so, I hate to dwell on it. And listen, I hope they use it as fuel to the fire, whatever. But listening to this, I've rolled my eyes and went, yeah.
I think Coach Atkins is doing a phenomenal job.
With what he has to work with.
We're just trying to find a combination of, a combination of 5 guys who can get the job done.
Any 5.
And right now we're still sorting through what 5 guys those are.
Can't find them.
And hopefully we'll get to an 8 guys.
No chance in hell we'll find 8 guys, everybody.
Going into week 1. And we just got to continue to shift and move and kind of,
find what pieces
we're going to
roll in the pocket out.
And keep getting better.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good things that they did. I mean, I
guess
that's a position that, as much as any one of them, you're counting on 5 guys trying to operate as one. And,
we don't have 2 that can work together.
There were some good things, and then there were some things that we definitely have to
appalling
get corrected.
Things. Appalling things.
Quickly. And so, I'm gonna kind of reserve right to
I'm going to go home and cry in my
how
pillow.
Those guys work together, and we're still looking for the right combination. And that's going to be probably a couple more week process.
Max
and we're
protect,
put guys
roll the pocket,
and different places to try to cross train a little bit, and then try to find the best 5 guys.
Yep, we don't have 5.
Ideally, we'd like to have 8 that we know we can play.
I mean,
but
ideally,
sometimes that works out, sometimes that doesn't.
It's not going to work out here.
Definitely excited about some of our young guys and the growth that they've had, and we've got to clean up some of the mistakes that the glaring mistakes that the critical errors. That's what has to get fixed immediately, and like I said earlier, the rest of it we'll be able to build upon.
Yeah. So many of these slappies that we're relying on here to go into the season, I don't know if they can hold down their job. So we might have to insert a couple of freshmen in here in order to get to 5. If you're expecting 8, I mean, okay, ain't gonna happen. So we're going to roll him out a lot. I'm going to tell James tonight that he's got to get the ball out of his hand inside of a second. That's what it's looking like. About a second, maybe 2 if you're lucky. A lot of quick developing plays. Nothing down the field. Nothing at all. We're just going to have to play the short game and hope like hell that's good enough and rely on a defense that I saw a lot of good things from. Now, please ask me about the defense. That's how that should have gone. What are you going to do? This gets back to what we've said all along, which is if you can't block, can't win. Can't play. You can't play. Now, that's a stark reminder of what they're up against with this offensive line. And I got to imagine that the strength of this team is the defensive line. Now, we've said all along that the defense was going to carry the day this year. I think they have legitimately good football players on that side of the ball. I think they're well coached. I think they're going to be put in positions to succeed. You're going to hear a lot of people raving about the defense. Now, partly that's to do with what they're going up against on the offensive side. Kendo is going to look great because he is dedicated, because he is mature, and because he is working hard, and he is leading, and he's going against our tackles. So, balance that in your own mind, right? But I'm sure he's a good football player. I think we'll see that this year, and I'm hoping so because I think he's a good kid who I think is probably turned the corner and really going to get to a place where if he's healthy, he can really exemplify what we thought he could be, right, based on his tape, based on what we heard coming in, based on the evaluation of him as a recruit. And then I think they've really got a set of linebackers that for the first time you can utilize in a lot of different ways, and they're not a hindrance to playing good defense. They're going to help you play good defense. In the past, you're kind of hiding some guys here and there. They're undersized. You hope you don't get run right at.
Or you start them and put them front and center.
Which is crazy. But, right, you've got guys now, pieces that you can move around that are going to help you play good defense. And, I think we're really quite loaded in the secondary. So, to me, they are going to be a good defense. They are also going to just undress this offense right now because we can't block it up. And you just have to kind of curb your enthusiasm a little bit for what you think is possible when you know that you're not going to be able to consistently block it up.
Well, and to be fair to the offensive line, which the ceiling is, you got to bend down Danny DeVito style to get into the room. Mm-hmm. They're only in March in that way, right?
Yeah.
3 practices in plus whatever they've done in fall.
And they've got a couple guys up there that I do like. I don't mean to just summarily dismiss the whole thing. It's just that collectively they're not good. And they don't have high-end talent. And so you really are just going to try to maximize whatever 5, and, you have to have 5. You're going to roll 5 out there, and then you're going to hope like hell.
That's what I heard in those clips.
Yeah.
Well, you got to have 5.
Yeah. And then it did tell me that after that 5, they are just turning to the young guys. Like, I think they know there's not a lot to salvage. You might as well just start, the reclamation project here. But I'll say this. Unlike our staff from a year ago, you can call plays to work around, to an extent, work around some of those deficiencies. You can't, listen, you're not going to beat teams that are going to beat you up along the defensive line. Like if those teams line up and just manhandle your offensive linemen, grand opening, grand closing. But there are some teams that aren't very good on this schedule. You can mitigate some of that disadvantage and play to your strengths, which is the defense, win field position. Apparently we got a punter from hell. So, that's so that you're going to be able to flip some field position, play with your defense there, and hope to muster, I don't know what the race will be to, as we like to say, 21. It might very well be 24, somewhere in there. Okay, well, we can work around some of these things and and that's what good coaching does, is understand, all these areas of weakness and what you have to do to minimize that. Again, sometimes just getting your ass whooped physically, there's not much you can do about that.
From what I gather, it's the quick game.
Well,
it's the quick game, and you said it before about getting the ball out of your hands within a second, but, the complement of running backs, lining up receivers in the backfield.
Sure.
We've heard all these things about this offense that it can get kind of kooky compared to traditional sets.
Probably have to.
But that Terry might be in the backfield in certain looks, and McDonald. Yeah. And that's not breaking news from this scrimmage. That's some stuff that we'd heard that they potentially might try based upon what Memphis has put on film.
Correct.
So it's not like giving away what's happening at the scrimmage. Plus, Tamorian didn't play all that much in the scrimmage. But, you get the idea. It's a lot of misdirection, a lot of eye candy, and a lot of guys that are going to need to make somebody miss in the flat.
And we might have the capability of doing that. There are skill position players on this team, both in the running back group and at the receiver group. Now, it'd be nice if we were all on the same page there, and that's something we can expound upon. I already did in the 3 o'clock hour. I do admire that Coach Norvell is trying to work hard with some guys that, you'd like to be able to move on from based on their previous experiences and headaches that they've provided, but maybe you can't. And maybe you're obviously trying to salvage something here because those are players that can help you. I mean, they are athletic, and they are guys that, in the case of DJ Matthews, I don't know if he'll opt out, but he's a player that can help you right now if he's right. And Warren Thompson's a player that I think in an ideal situation you probably would have parted ways with by now. I certainly would have personally. But when you hear him say, Coach Norvell, that is, hey, I love him. We're trying hard. I have sympathies for guys in this situation. These are very trying times. It tells me that my coach is awfully patient and is certainly not blind to the situation as far as needing as many weapons as possible. If you're going to do a lot of what you're talking about, Tom, then you need as many choices and weapons as possible to make people miss.
Yeah, and you need a steady hand, or else you're going to die 10 years earlier than you would have before coaching a team that can't, protect a quarterback.
Yeah.
Or get the push for,
but
second and 7.
You know what? And I realize, I know how this sounds. You're hopping in the car like, oh, yep, Cameron just said we're going to suck. Yeah. You never thought we were going to be a dominant football team anyhow, and then especially given the fact that, they missed all of spring. This was going to be a trying experience. I want football as much as the next guy. I'm just holding out hope it's played, whether we're, a 5-6 club or a 6 and whatever we are.
3-2.
I want to see
because
some
only 5 are played.
Well, I think it certainly benefits them to play, and what I mean by that is I'm excluding the larger conversation that is triggered as second you bring this up. I'm just talking about if they can play safely, the benefits of getting out there and playing football, and these coaches getting a real look at what they have, and then also the growth that can happen for the players. I mean, it would be a big deal.
Yeah, I just wonder where, because he's chuckling at one point in his answer, Norvell, where he's clearly recalling some mistakes and how fundamental or just, bat bleep crazy.
Yeah, first scrimmage,
to
though,
him,
right?
Where ooh, there's some things, man. And I just wonder, because it is legitimately true that the interior of the defensive line is among the best in the country, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There are times where we overblow, maybe what the edge rushers do because the tackle play is so poor that you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
But objectively speaking, the interior of the defensive line
is going to be very good.
Is
and
elite,
very difficult to block. Yeah,
right. So maybe the guard play isn't that bad. Maybe they're stuck at tackle. Maybe center's an issue, but the guards look okay. And that's what I'm holding out hope for. Is that it's not as fundamentally dire as it sounds, but maybe it's just you got 2 or 3 that you like, and you're just trying to find the next 2.
Well, I think this is exactly what it is. You've got 3 you like, 3 that can.
Well, that's better than it's been.
Yeah. Okay. But I think, too, that you're, again, hopeful because this was the first scrimmage. Now they know the mountain they must climb, and we go from there. You got a little bit of time here. So
this would have been a scrimmage that takes place in March.
Right. And that's the frustrating
part.
Clock
they're
there's
under.
nothing they can do about that. It's legitimately true, to use your words, that they really got dealt a terrible hand, not only with that offensive line, but then to have no spring. So you're going to have these kinds of, moments where the coach may look a little saucer-eyed as he's asked a question about where they're at, because as he pictures it in his head, as he goes back through and relives those moments of the scrimmage, it's hard. It's going to arrest him. Yeah. He's going to be like, oh, okay.
Guys, aren't we starting the 26th? I don't see 26 on the schedule there. But
I'll tell you this much, Tom. They could start on the 26th or they could start in October. That offensive line ain't going to be any better. I mean, the players are the players.
Oh, I think it could be better with more time. I mean, it could be that against Georgia Tech, which that's as good of opponent in the ACC as you're going to get in week 1. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be true that by the time we play Duke, the offensive line's better than if we go the whole way through. It's going to be markedly better by the end of the year. I think we've got developers here.
Yeah, I just think the ceiling on the talent there is pretty significant. I think they can only be so good. We're not going to confuse them for being a good offensive line. They'll be better. Okay, that's fair. Not good, though. They won't be good. They'll be below average. And they will always be.
But we're below that based upon what we just heard. Oh,
sure, yeah. And that part I agree with you. Like this first scrimmage, okay, fine. But, yeah, they'll be better than that. But I think on the whole, each week if they play this season and week to week. If we're doing Tallahassee game day, and I sure hope we do. I got asked that question very early this morning on Twitter, answered it over a cup of joe, Tom. If, in fact, we're able to do that, that's fine. I won't spend so much time lamenting the fact that every week we have to circle that segment group as potentially the downfall of any particularly smart game plan that's put into play. I understand that's always – it's just going to be the status quo every week. Everybody will know, okay, this goes without saying. Now.
Right. Now time for our offensive keys to the game, the offensive line.
Yeah, there you go, right? Just it's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I feel like I'm trying to stay mum on certain things. NBA playoffs started today. Right off the bat, you have kind of a series that I think is one of the more difficult ones to predict. And that Utah series is very difficult to find a winner. And I understand my audience. None of you care. But then at the same time, I would tell you that we're going to start getting a lot of NFL news. I know you don't want to hear about the Lightning right now, so I won't tell you anything, buddy. Won't tell you anything. But here we sit now with NFL camps underway. Of course, this morning it was dominated by video of Tom Brady in shorts throwing the football around in warm-ups, and the exciting news that Tom Brady can be cursed at by Bruce Arians and that he can curse back and that men are men and this is what happens and it's okay. I was like, oh, good God, guys. This is really going to get old. But for people that are starved for football like we are, I'll live with that.
Saw O.J. Howard's quotes?
No.
Okay. You're going to love them. Well, the first part is I had some fundamental things and bad habits I needed to clean up in my game.
You think?
Tom Brady was quick to point out what was wrong. That would be a material difference, though.
A material difference and a necessary difference. You might get something out of that guy yet. Okay.
But then O.J. also said the accuracy and the placement of the throws from Tom really makes it a lot easier.
I think that's true, too. Yeah. Well, but I don't want to hear that from O.J. Just shut up and run your route properly.
There you are.
Sorry ass.
Yeah.
And when the ball does hit you in the hands, let's not catch it and turn around, throw it 10 yards into the air for the opposing linebacker to pick off on the run and walk into the end zone so that Winston can be blamed for a pick six. Sorry ass. Anyhow, that's my aside for him. But here you go. Because with the NFL and camps opening come the news of injuries, and I don't wish this on anybody. And I don't know where you want to rank this, Tom, but this is a short segment, so let's rank it. Gerald McCoy, former Buccaneer, who really served quite well in Tampa. He was a very good football player, not a wasted draft pick at all. For much of his time there, seemingly a very good guy. He got a little contentious towards the end and all that, and I was ready to see him leave at the time that he left.
Being in a terrible organization for going on a decade will do that to you.
Yeah, I'll forgive like you have. And there were some things that I thought, okay, rolled my eyes. But I don't know what the Cowboys were doing paying him $18 million, a 3-year deal here. Turns out that they're not going to get anything from him at all, ever, because he's not coming back from this. Today we learned that a season-ending injury has taken place. He'll miss all of 2020. I'd say that's a wrap on his career because this is a ruptured right quad. Oh, it's right. Oh, no, sir. Oh. A quad rupture.
What does that even look like?
Oh, I don't want to see the X-rays, but they did X-ray him. He injured it during individual drills. Sometimes when listen, freak injuries happen. People get hurt in their kitchen when just turning wrong, whatever. But I think when you've been beaten on for, he's 32 years old. He's not 62 years old. He's 32 years old. He's a professional athlete. He's worked hard to condition himself and put himself in a position to endure the rigors of being a professional football player. He's a massive individual, too. He's better suited to take on some punishment here and there in the trenches. But I say all that to say this, that when you've done that, like you did for your years at Oklahoma, then you come to the NFL and you are a centerpiece of that defensive line and you've got to be the man. I think that it accelerates the timeline where something catastrophic like this is going to happen in your early 30s. At the line of scrimmage is where you see a lot of this. And this is an individual drill. He's not even taking on a blocker and just pat. That's the end of it. Right quad says, I'm out, big fella.
Well, and that's where, I can only imagine just from doing, workouts or playing sports into my early 20s, there are certain days that, you do workouts like with our old friend Bill or what you do at Orange Theory, and you could feel something's pulling.
Your body's telling you, like, hey, man.
Yeah, you need to cool off a little bit, and you've probably felt that a million times.
You just press through.
But then 1,000,001 for Gerald today. He felt a normal thing in his quad, and the next thing you know, it goes to the next level and the next one. And you're panicking, and you feel the pain of a rupture of your quad.
I don't even know.
Dear God.
Woo. Well, and Jalen Hurd undergoing an MRI, looks like a major knee injury for him today. I mean, this is the part where you hold your breath. Fans everywhere, that's what you do.
One thing I'm learning very quickly here, especially in baseball, is when we talk about finely tuned athletes, I didn't know the half of it. Because the discussion around baseball right now is this is why pitchers and catchers report in the middle of February before an April start.
Right.
And when you try and wedge 6-7 weeks of preparations into 2 to 3 weeks, this is what you get.
Well, you got pitchers going down left and right.
Right, but even with the NFL, I would think that with a lack of OTAs, somebody's quoted saying it over the weekend. It was in Peter King's article about Brady that went up this morning. This OTA that we just had in Tampa was May 15th, but it's in August. So if it's happening in baseball with a specialized arm of a pitcher, are there going to be more soft tissue injuries for NFL stars, both in the trenches and at the skill position?
Well, this is a complaint from coaches in that league and owners and people who have been around the game for a long time will say, I understand the players always want to opt out of any kind of contact. They're always saying we need less preseason games, fewer contact drills, and they negotiate that with the CBA. They constantly, you can't put your hands on each other in these practices anymore. And the amount of times that you can rep at full speed has been greatly diminished. And coaches lament that all the time because they believe it leads directly to injury. I think there's a happy medium. I don't know the answer to this, and I'd have to hear from a doctor about that. But, man.
But just looking at what baseball's going through right now, because it's not just pitchers' arms, but you're seeing, calves and quads and hammies, and I'm thinking, all right, well, what about the NFL? I know that training camp is existing relatively on schedule, but the OTA work that you're supposed to have done didn't happen because of COVID. You're trusting that everybody did this stuff on their own.
Luckily, Brady ignored all the warnings of health and advisories. And
for the Bucks, are going to be fine. Hillsborough is like the epicenter of the country, and he's like, I'm going to Berkeley Prep. We're going to have 50
all you guys,
people.
Let's go. Yeah, don't worry about it. Let's get out here and rep if you know what's good for you. And in that respect, good job, Tom. Trying to win football games around here. As we wrap it up, should note that this kind of thing has to happen more often. During a testing meeting last week, at the end of the week, Friday, Cleveland Indians players scolded their teammates. Mike Clevenger on the list there, Tom, not shocking.
Boy, did we tell you, Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm. Zach Plesac was also tisked for breaking protocol and going out in Chicago. At least one player said he would opt out of the season if the two remained on the active roster. Clevenger and Plesac, 2/5 of the Indians' rotation. This, according to Passan, of course. He does great work. That's a league best ERA for that staff, by the way, 2.43.
Here's what I heard about the difference between those two on the way in terms of the infringements. All right, so Plesac did everything that you read. It's like not good at all.
Yeah, going out on the town in Chicago.
Clevenger did the same, but he made curfew. He made it back by curfew because he went to a different place than Plesac did. But the problem is he went out, didn't tell his team, and then got on the team plane.
Right.
But he made it back. I don't know that that's reported correctly, but from what I understand, Clevenger did make curfew. But still, when everybody was killing Plesac, he didn't speak up, say I was out too, and then you've got immunocompromised teammates and Terry Francona, who survived cancer, and you're on a damn plane with them.
They were optioned to Cleveland's alternate site and will spend at least 10 days away from the Major League team. Some teammates accepted their apologies and preferred they remain with the Indians, sources saying. The anger over the actions, palpable, enough to lead to the demotions, ones that if they last for a specific period of time could have significant financial repercussions for those two gentlemen. The players themselves saying that they were disappointed not only in the decision by Clevenger and Plesac to leave the team hotel, but also their actions afterwards. And you kind of referenced that. Clevenger was not truthful with them about his involvement before he boarded the team plane is what pissed them off there. And Plesac, he was caught trying to return to the hotel early. I would like to know who caught him. He attempted on Instagram video live this week or whatever it's called, I guess what he attempted to do was apologize, and the players found that more disconcerting than the actual original confrontation. Apparently, he stumbled in his efforts to say sorry about that. And you got time before you hit record there to kind of figure out what you need to say. That ought not be a stumble. Nobody's following you and asking you for an instant reaction. It's your Instagram account. Take a little time and go, all right, I think I got a handle on how I should apologize here.
So T-minus, what do you think, 15 days before we leave the air and we just join the PR firm or form the LLC?
And make sure it happens.
There is so
much
money to be had out there in these times.
It's amazing that, it's just, I understand. It's really difficult to be in a hotel room nonstop, never go out anywhere, never do anything. But it's what you agreed to when you decided to play. You could have opted out if you didn't think you could handle that. If you didn't think you could handle the responsibility of that, then say, no, I don't want to do it. Once you're in, I think, certainly you owe it to your skipper in that situation, certainly, and the rest of your teammates to button up, man. Get yourself together.
Well, and this is where I would use the argument that a lot of people used when the players were mad at the owners, and this was millionaires versus billionaires. Some people can't work. Some people don't have a chance to work. Now, I don't like that on the way in because so what?
Yeah.
If a guy makes $2-3 million a year and he can say no and he opts out, so, you know what? Good for him. He's made that money.
Correct.
But in this instance, you've chosen to work and you can't sit there. And you've got millions and millions of people who would do anything to go get a job and do what they love to do or at least provide for their family.
Well, you'd like that sort of humanity that you're referencing, an empathy for others, an understanding of a world greater than their own to exist. But from what we've read of Clevenger, that's not true. He doesn't sense that. And I think you see all around us on a daily basis the kind of selfishness that doesn't seem to reveal a greater understanding of your obligation to the guy next to you. And and again, not everybody has to lead the same life. They could have opted out and gone wherever they wanted to go.
That's what I'm saying. Once you've gotten past that decision point
I'm saying once you're in.
Yeah,
once you're in, man. And it's not that long. I mean, it's not that tough, I don't think. You get out every day. You're playing baseball.
Right. And you're seeing different places.
Yeah.
I know it's still a hotel room, but, you're traveling. It's not like you're locked in a bubble on a property for 3 months.
Right.
Baseball decided to do it a little bit differently.
Well, we're going to do probables, but as we do, should I cue the music or should I welcome our friends from Wooden Glass first? What do you want to do?
Today, the welcome and then the cue.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, probables are going to be brought to you today by Wooden Glass. Wooden Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. They are Tallahassee's first family in glass replacement, highly respected for their quality of installation, both residential and commercial. Wooden Glass, 222-5781, 222-5781. I would personally like to say thank you to Wooden Glass for coming on board and sponsoring probables. Cue it up.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Cardinals Cubs in a to-be-determined doubleheader thing here. I don't know what they're doing. They got to figure this all out. I know they're playing right now as we speak, but there's supposed to be another game, but they're not real sure. It may get made up later.
So I have to say, with all the hockey on, I've lost baseball in terms of
Being locked in.
3-4 games that are on at a given time during the day. But as I understand it, the Cardinals were due to play 3 doubleheaders in a span of 4 or 5 days.
I hope so. I hope they play 9 games in 4 days. But they did come out and play very good baseball until they gave up back-to-back home runs.
The Amansky +1.
It was a thing of beauty. You don't see that very frequently. 10 times in the last 70 years? It is pretty crazy to have somebody in the same pitcher give up back-to-back domes.
Didn't the Dodgers do something like that on Sunday Night Baseball not too long ago?
Probably.
I think they did.
That's a hell of a lineup.
Yeah.
They might have. Red Sox, Yankees, Martin Perez, Jordan Montgomery. We got the Nats and the Braves tonight. We're going to hear that game right here
We
on
will.
97.9 ESPN Radio. Annabelle Sanchez, who's a cool 0-3 with a 9.69 so far this year, not helping the Nats cause. Going against Toussaint for the Braves. Mets, Marlins, Robert Gesellman.
Yep. Old Bobby G.
Bobby G, 0-0 with a 9. Jordan Yamamoto going for the Marlins.
So Gesellman was supposed to be a bullpen hand, and then
They've had to stretch him out.
our entire
what they say.
rotation has been destroyed and decimated. So they said, good luck, Bobby G, and he wasn't ready to go for start 1.
You and the Braves rotation have all been decimated.
A lot of rotations.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries to the pitchers this year.
Struggling. Blue Jays, Orioles. Youngin Ryu, I should say, and Alex Cobb going for the Orioles. We've got Kansas City and the Twins
Boy, Alex Cobb. Remember when he was good?
with the Rays.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was supposed to be a thing. Didn't really, it was,
It
a
was
2-year window, yeah.
Like 30 minutes of fame.
Yeah. Chris Bubik goes for the Royals, and I like saying his name. Go get him, Bubik. Matt Whistler goes for the Twins. Tigers, White Sox, Matthew Boyd, Gio Gonzalez, Padres, Rangers. You didn't give me the obligatory. Gio Gonzalez is still pitching?
I believe it now.
Padres, Rangers, Zach Davies, Jordan Lyles.
There's a lot of 8 ERAs out there.
As I've noted, Lyles sucks. Used to suck with the Pirates. Rockies, Astros. Lyles actually probably pitching a lot better now with the Rangers. Everybody who leaves the Pirates does. Kyle Freeland goes for the Rockies. The Astros are throwing Brandon Beal. What is that? Beeldak? You can do it, Jeff. A's D-backs. I love watching the A's. Probably my favorite team to watch right now, man. They are thrilling. Up and down the lineup. A lot of fun. They're testy. They're good.
Seems like they've embraced the 70s look even more this year.
Oh, I love
But
it.
the green is brighter, isn't it?
Oh, much brighter. Oh, they do. Their uniforms are fantastic. They're a good watch. If you're looking for a team, like if your team is ass and you're just looking for a team to kind of adapt or adopt, I should say, and watch. I mean, I watch the Rays a lot. It's my American League team. But I find myself gravitating toward those A's games when I'm just flipping around like, oh, the A's are on.
Oh, I enjoy watching the Twins a hell of a lot more than I do the Mets.
There you go. D-backs. Zach Gallen goes for the D-backs. Mariners, Dodgers, Justin Dunn, Ross Stripling, and Giants, Angels tonight. Tyler Anderson, Griffin Canning going for the Angels, and that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. Yeah, I did a bit of kind of a similar, I think, evening to what happens at T. Lizzie's house last night. I ended up watching hockey throughout the night, not even caring about any of the combatants, just watching. Shocked that Chicago forced another game.
That was, because Vegas put, 40 on Crawford? 40 plus?
Crawford had, I think at one time, I know shot difference isn't the sole thing to look at here.
No, but there were chances.
At one time, it was 13-36 in shots. Yeah. Crawford was just wearing a beating. It was assault.
See, yeah, you're right. Sometimes shots are a little bit misleading, but scoring chances are a stat that are kept by coaches. High pressure, high volatility chances. Havoc rate in football is kind of the same thing. Vegas was creating that havoc, and they just didn't have anything to show for it.
It's crazy. Crawford, who early in the previous, iteration was giving up goals left and right. We were going over. He's gotten it together. He played really well last night. That's insane. I mean, he kind of took it upon himself to win that game. It won't matter. They're down 3-1. They're going to lose the series to Vegas. But I did watch Blues and OT. All kinds of good stuff, man.
Dallas tied it up with under 12 seconds to go, and they won it in overtime. They probably feel like a team of destiny for a day.
Yeah.
Watched the Isles beat the Caps again. Oh, my God. Washington is about to get swept by their former coach. That's their former coach.
Yeah, that's even better. I wonder if he'll give him the double birds.
I think he will.
Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Don't forget, little Braves pregame followed by first pitch right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. That's up next, right? That's what we got.
You got
right
it.
Off the bat. Their pregame show and their broadcast is exceptional. I find myself listening to it all the time.
Should we syndicate them for 6 to 7?
They're really good.
Just in general?
It's just really, really good, man. I enjoy listening to them. They're smart, really beautiful voices. I mean, they really have it together. That's a good show. And the broadcast is fantastic, and I hate the Braves.
Maybe Ben Ingram could do a pregame show for Bucks Lakers in the NBA Finals. Ben Ingram here.
Oh, I'd love for him to. It'd be fantastic.
LeBron James takes the court tonight.
I wonder, does he talk like that in his kitchen? When he turns to his wife and asks her where the milk is, does it sound like that?
Honey, where's the milk?
Does it sound like that?
He's not that old either. He's
I
my
think
age.
it has to be how he actually talks, right? You couldn't stay in character that long, could you? That's just who he is. He went and took lessons, how to gauge his breath, the whole deal.
I think that is a character. See, I think, Gene Deckerhoff is Gene Deckerhoff as you hear him on the radio, as you hear him in life. I think Ben Ingram, because he's got a little more snark to him, I think there's a different dude in there.
I don't know. I think the voice is probably the same. I think he's got that down. He probably took the time. Lee Bowen had a great voice. It was for baseball. He was still that guy most of the time. He'd get a little Twitter-pated every now and then, but he was still mostly that guy. They go take breathing lessons and speaking classes and speech classes, I should say. And I'm not talking about university. I'm talking about going to a coach, and it's hilarious to listen to because you can tell the person that does that.
Well, the coach who had Ben Ingram says, I got a winner. He called out all the other coaches and says, You're
listen
done,
to
boys.
this. I got my guy.
This is a 40-year voice of the Atlanta Braves.
Forget about it. It is over.
As soon as Powell's out of that booth.
As long as he doesn't pull a Marv Albert, that's his job forevermore. All right. Have a good night, everybody.